It seems everyone's talking about gun violence these days, arguing about how to reduce deaths and injuries from firearms. But beyond the topic of gun control, what are the social, political, and corporate links to our epidemic of gun violence? I recently sat down with the hip-hop artist Oscar Jackson, who goes by the rapper name of Paris, to talk about this. Paris is known for his highly charged political and socially conscious lyrics, but he also has a degree in economics from UC Davis. His latest album is entitled Pistol Politics, and we talked about that among many other topics. Here's some of that interview. What got you, Paris, as a rap star to get involved in politics and gun control?
Well, I'm not really involved necessarily in either. You know, I just speak on issues as I see them, and always wanted to make music that you know, spoke to the people and actually had something to say, as opposed to just doing what everybody else is doing.
Why do you think killing 90, I think there are 90 killings a day with guns in America, people invade schools, and we don't do anything about it?
Well, we live in a society that is fear-driven politically, and everybody buys into the fear. You know, when you're told to be afraid of the other, then you act accordingly, and we've seen that happen time and time again. We see it, you know, with Islamophobia now, but it's occurred with other groups of people before that, and it's a vicious cycle that seems to be never ending.
But I understand that. But what about fear of our schools being invaded? And so why don't we put a clamp down? Why don't we have more background checks?
But how often?
We should have a fear that when we send our kid to school, he doesn't get killed.
Well, I think that's a valid fear for some, but it does not happen as often as we would like to think it does. You know, and when you're constantly told you need to arm up, when you're constantly told that more guns are the solution to the guns that already exist, when there's a gun for every man, woman, and child currently in America, you know, it's a difficult thing to overcome.
Why is the NRA so powerful?
Because they got the money.
Yeah, but even their own membership doesn't agree with a lot of what they stand for. 82% of their membership want more background checks.
Well, we just saw the executive legislation passed by President Obama. I don't know what it's going to. The cat is out of the bag with guns, and that's what people don't realize in America. When there's so many guns that are currently in circulation, it's difficult to undo. It's like putting a Band-Aid on a bullet wound, no pun intended. So, you know, there are many of us who have different fears when it comes to violence. You know, I'm actually more afraid of the police than I'm afraid of somebody else doing something to me, honestly, because of the way the police act in communities of color. So I don't have any reservations whatsoever about going into particular neighborhoods where people like me look and breaking bread with people who are like me that I happen to know. I don't really encounter that kind of violence anymore. That's more of something that plagues a younger generation. You know, I'm in my 40s right now in the Bay Area, California.
Was that a problem in the Bay Area?
Well, for my age group, when I was younger, yeah. You know, I mean, violence afflicts young black men more than it afflicts older black men.
You released a video single entitled Buck Buck Pass, a commentary on what you say is a connection between gun violence and corporate and political interests.
That's right.
How does this get to the police department, though? Why would a well-trained police officer, like one of the rules of the New York City police officers, one of their rules is you never, ever shoot anyone in the back. Ever.
Well, obviously, rules are meant to be broken for them.
But there should be no reason to ever shoot anyone.
But they shoot people, though.
Why?
I don't know why.
Investigate the why?
Because they buy into the politics of fear also, perhaps in America. I don't know. You know, I do know that.
So the cop is fearful.
In America, all police and all soldiers are viewed as heroes, unless proven otherwise.
Correct.
And 9 times out of 10, most people of color, if they're young and they're black, or they're young and they're Latino are viewed as some type of a threat, unless proven otherwise.
Even sometimes to black police officers.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have to counteract that.
By doing what?
Well, in my instance, it's about raising awareness, and what greater vehicle to do that than through something that's celebrity-based. That's all we care about in America, celebrity.
Do you ever
Fear and celebrity.
Do you ever talk to police officers? No, you got a point. Do you ever talk to police officers?
I've known some in the past, but not in a long time.
Wouldn't that be a good idea for people like you to talk to police
Yeah, but we've been
groups?
talking. We've been talking and marching and crying and coffee drinking and burning candles and having meetings and all of that, but nothing seems to change. We still die.
Do Black Lives Matter? Has that worked? Is that helping?
It's raised awareness, absolutely. I would say that definitely it is a strong component toward reaching a proper resolution.
What do you make of Donald Trump's appeal? Does that hurt you, bother you?
Donald Trump is speaking to the lowest common denominator in America. And it's something that's happened before. I mean, we saw even with George Wallace, history repeats itself, you know. Anybody that's of their right mind is going to be offended by what he has to say, and really kind of, quite honestly, what his party has to say. You know, when you systematically exclude people, exclude blacks, you exclude Latinos, you exclude gay people, you exclude women, you exclude the poor, you know, who is left to vote for you? I just don't understand it, you know. But there's this rage surrounding the Obama presidency, and there's this rage and a kind of a fear, again, that word fear, driven motivation for a lot of people, oftentimes to even vote against their best interests, because they are so galvanized to be in opposition to what they consider to be the taking over of their country.
Are more rappers speaking out in their
Those
music?
who know. There have been those of us who always have spoken out, you know, who like Public Enemy and Immortal Technique and Talib Kweli and folks like that. There are people who do it. It's just that corporate interests more often than not keep us from reaching the masses the way that we used to be able to. And now everything is a dance, or everything is homogenized to be able to sell you a Toyota or a Burger King, or, you know, some soda or something like that. And very little protest music is heard on a major label level.
But corporate interests don't support police violence. I mean, that would...
Or do they?
Why would they support police violence?
Or do they? I don't know. I mean, you know, we can look at the connections between violent music, you know, violent influence through entertainment, and violence on the street.
Do you fear cops?
I don't fear them, but I'm aware of them. And I don't put myself in situations where I have to engage them unnecessarily. I think that a lot of times people enter the force with optimism. And just just like people enter into politics with optimistic intentions, and for whatever reason things end up not working out. They buy into the power and the corruption, or you know, you got to realize that a good cop that stands idly by and does nothing while bad cops do what they do are just as culpable. So,
when you say it's a small percentage of police officers, though,
I have no idea. I mean, the way the media covers it, you would think every police is evil. So, you know, and just like the way the media covers us, you would think that everybody that looks like me is about to rob you.
You've worked with veteran hip-hop artists like Public Enemy and others.
That's right.
Do you think you're making inroads?
Towards?
Better, making things better.
Well, I would hope so. I mean, I know that entertainment is very influential. I mean, it's really the only thing that America cares about, again, outside of anything having to do with fear. Yeah, I've worked with some of the best in hip-hop, and I was kind of there on the cusp of its inception and its rise to prominence in the West. And yeah, I have worked with a lot, and I do think we're making it better. I think that as long as we're doing what we're doing and providing a viable alternative to a lot of what you hear on the radio, then yeah, I think so.
How do you think President Obama has handled himself and his presidency?
He handles himself well in terms of paying attention to issues that directly are of concern to my community, not enough. And I think that his foreign policy exploits have been in lockstep with everything, with everybody that has come before him. Every president bombs countries that have natural resources, especially where people of color live. And that's just America's empire-building way. It doesn't matter who's in office.
In your life, haven't you seen improvements in the whole racial area?
No.
No.
Actually, I think race relations are worse now than they've ever been in my lifetime. Of course, I didn't live through the 60s and grow up in all of that, but you know, when I first became aware, and you know, in the late 70s, early 80s, and I was coming through high school, and you know, dealing with business, and you know, I've been dealing in entertainment for a long time, and you know, coming from San Francisco, coming from the Bay Area is extremely diverse, and you know, when I was coming up, nobody really paid that much attention to racial issues, and now we're beat over the head with it so much. And there's so much animosity as a result of the Obama presidency, honestly. Yeah, I think it's as bad as it's ever been in my lifetime.
Are you supporting any of the presidential candidates?
If I had to pick, it'd probably be Bernie Sanders right now.
So even Hillary doesn't?
Well, Hillary is a war hawk.
Also promotes war?
That she does.
Well, I was usually ask a lot of guests, are you optimistic or pessimistic? You would seem to be very pessimistic.
I don't necessarily know if it's pessimism. I think there's nowhere to go but up when you're at the bottom. But, you know, we just do what we do, man, to try to make it better.
The late Edward Venner Williams, a great lawyer, I asked him if he was optimistic or pessimistic. He said, of course I'm pessimistic, I'm smart.
There it is.
Thank you, Paris.
Thank you very much.
Talking with you, man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Paris's album, Pistol Politics, is out now and available everywhere, as is his current single, Hard Truth Soldier.